Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second session of the day in our CPD initiative by S. Chan Publishing. My name is Preeti Kashyap, and I'm delighted to be your host for today's session. We hope you're having a fantastic time and are ready to dive into another enlightening topic. So, in this session titled Building Foundations Nurturing Young Minds Through Scaffolding Early Writing Skills, we'll be understanding scaffolding, learn the principles and importance of scaffolding in early writing skills. We'll also be exploring effective strategies and activities to nurture young writers. We'll understand how to build environments that promote and support early writing. We encourage you to participate actively in this session. Feel free to ask questions and share your experiences in the interactive segment of the session. So now it's time to get to know our esteemed speaker for this session, Ms. Tanvi Parwal. Tanvi is a distinguished academic professional with over a decade of experience. She excels in collaborating with top schools and organizations, specializing in designing integrated English and early years curricula. Tanvi is renowned for conducting impactful training programs and innovation workshops that enhance teaching practices. Her passion for creating efficient, real, and purposeful learning experience has empowered many teachers to achieve transformative outcomes. So, before I hand it over to Ms. Tanvi, I'd like to mention a few housekeeping rules for everyone. Participants will be muted throughout the entire session. Please ensure you have a pen and a paper to note important information. The chat box will only be enabled during the Q&A round and as required by the speaker. To receive your e-certificates, please fill out the feedback form that will be sent to your registered email IDs after the session. Don't forget to participate in the quiz after the final session at 5:30. We'll share the quiz link with you once the session concludes. So without any further delay, let's dive into the world of early writing skills. Ms. Tanvi, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you for such a warm welcome, Preeti. Hello, everyone. Just give me 1 second, I'll share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I'm very delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you about a very essential aspect of early childhood education, which is writing. So, what do you think writing is? What, according to you, writing entails? Please use the chat box to give your responses. And here I'm not talking about early years. Writing in general, what do you think it is? Expression, okay. Expressing, communication, being creative, giving words to thoughts, our views. Excellent. Yes. So, as we all know, writing is basically to an ability to express our ideas, our emotions, our feelings, our ideologies, our thoughts coherently. And this coherently is a very important aspect to writing. Now, you can maybe you are able to write like a paragraph or a passage or an essay, but maybe it is not very cohesive. It's not comprehensive. You start from something, you move on to something else, and then you talk about something else. So The final purpose of writing is the ability to express your ideas and emotions coherently. That is what writing is all about. Now, if you understand, listening and speaking, these are the oral activities. So you listen and you speak. You're not doing anything with your hands, you're not doing anything with your any other part of the body except for your ears and your mouth. So you're listening and you're speaking. And reading and writing are the written aspect of any language acquisition. So when you read with your eyes, and you write with your hands. Those are the written aspect. Listening and reading are the inputs. You gain things. It is the input. It's like an intake. Speaking, writing, on the other hand, is the output. So based on your input, your output is defined, right? So whatever you take in, that is how you will produce. It's like cooking food. So if you put namak, if you put salt in the food, you will have the taste of salt in the food. If you don't put salt, the taste of salt will not be there. Similarly, whatever you listen, whatever you read, according to that, what your input is, your output will be defined. Now, it's a very it has always been a very important saying that, to acquire language, it is very important that you have a lot of input. But in recent years, we have also started believing that to acquire language, not only input is important, but also output is important. That shows how well you have acquired the language, right? So both inputs and outputs, they together form and help the child to acquire language. And this is not only for early years, this is like the base of language acquisition. Now, basis all this, what do you think writing is in early years? And can you link that with the pictures that you are seeing on the screen? Do all these pictures show writing, or do you think only a few of them show? You can use the chat box to answer. What is writing in early years, specifically early years? Strokes, okay. Drawing, yes. Scribbling, okay. Fun, of course. Colors, definitely. Pre-writing, scribbling, picture drawing, yes. Yes. Expressing themselves, absolutely. Identifying the symbol and writing, very well said. How they feel, to be liberate, excellent, yes. Scribbling, strokes. So you understand that in early years, children are not going to just pick up the pencil and write sentences or write passages, right? In early years, writing is not just picking up a notebook or a laptop and start writing. It entails a lot of other things. So writing is also drawing. Scribbling is again a part of writing. Copying something is again a part of writing. Forming correct letters in the correct way is again a part of writing. So writing in early years, of course, is about expressing self, but it also is about acquiring that skill. It's not just that you can just do it. It doesn't happen like that. You have to acquire it, you have to learn it, and there are a lot of ways and strategies through which this can happen, and we'll talk about it in the coming slides. So we understand that writing begins early. But what is also important here is to understand that writing does not begin in the form of writing. There is something called as pre-writing skills. Somebody even mentioned in the chat. So what does pre-writing contain? Pre-writing is letting the child use their fingers. So we know that when the child is using the palm, this is called the palmar grasp. Holding a cup, holding a bottle, holding a ball, all these the child is using with the entire palm. This is called the palmar grasp. When the child is using only the fingers, this is called the pincer grasp. So, in order for the child to start writing, in order for the child to hold a pencil, put appropriate pressure on the paper, write, have a flow to write the letters, the child has to have pincer grasp, right? As some people are also saying, using fingers, gross motor, holding a pencil, yes. So, in order for the pincer grasp to develop, there are a lot of activities that needs to be done so that we are readying the child to write, to hold the pencil and put appropriate pressure on the paper. Now, these activities could be art and craft activities, tearing paper activities, making balls with papers, tearing and pasting, cutting and pasting, using scissors. Of course, I don't promote using the scissors that we as adults use, but scissors like the kids friendly scissors, using colors to maybe make something, using paint brushes to just draw freely. All these aspects, everything includes the pre-writing stage. So that is the phase where you actually start building students and readying students to move to the writing stage, the actual writing stage. And why is it important to do that? If you look at this X-ray, the left hand X-ray, the left hand, the X-ray shows the X-ray of a 3-year-old child, and the right X-ray is of a 7-year-old child. Do you notice that? Do you notice any difference in these two X-rays? Please use the chat box to answer. Is there any difference? Do you notice the difference in the way the bones are formed? Yes? Yes, of course. Okay, so everyone is saying yes. There is a significant difference in these two X-rays. The X-ray of a 3-year-old child clearly shows that the bones are not as dense. It is not as connected. If you see this, the circled portion, you can see that that in a 3-year-old's hand, it's still cartilages. It hasn't calcified and solidified to form a bone. Yes, so it is still cartilages. So the child's hand is very fragile right now. And at this age, we should never ever force or push the child to do anything with writing using a pencil and a paper if the child is able to well enough. But if the child is not able to, if the child is not able to hold a pencil, if the child is not able to write anything on the paper or form the correct shape, it is absolutely fine. A very important thing here is to develop the strength in the hands, the strength in the fingers of the child, which takes several years to happen. Therefore, all these pre-writing activities are very, very important because that is the phase where you help the child develop their strength in the hand to be able to write. If that is not developed, writing will become a daunting experience for the child. The child will never be feel happy about it. The child will always be stressed and burdened. Oh my God, I have to pick a pencil, I have to write, I have to do this. But after writing, my hands pain. My fingers starts paining. My palm pains, my elbow pains. And if that happens, then it will never be a fun experience for the child. And of course, that's not what we want to happen, right? Therefore, investing good amount of time in the pre-writing phase and readying the child for writing is very important. Now, uh, let's move on to the next. So, okay, I can see in the chat there is a question: at what age should a child begin writing? There is no correct answer to this, ma'am. There is no right age. In the early years, it is very important to understand that children will learn at their own pace. Sometimes you will see a 3-year-old child being able to write, sometimes even a 5-year-old child is not. So, if something like that happens, it is important to provide uh, opportunities to the child to be able to do that. But of course, you can't delay it to say 8 years, 10 years. Even in 10 years, the child is not able to write. That can't happen. So that hence it is very important that we put a lot of importance and provide a lot of opportunities using variety of materials and activities during the pre-writing phase. Doing coloring, doing tearing of papers, picking up things, stone pasting or small things pasting. These things will help the child develop the muscles. So now, what do you think should, after all this information, now what do you think should be the first stage of writing? Please use the chat box, and can we please park the questions for the end? Maybe you will have these answers during the session. The first stage, a lot of people are saying scribbling. Sindhu ma'am is saying sand tracing, coloring, drawing a line or a circle, scribbling, first holding things, okay, tracing, strokes, tracing on floor, okay, air writing, perfect, okay, okay, enhancing pensagraphs, dots, tracing, scribbling, okay, perfect. Now, thank you everyone for all the amazing answers. So when we say writing in early years, now there are two aspects to it, right? One is the physical activity of writing, that you're actually holding the pencil and you're writing. You're writing anything. You're writing letters, words, you're just drawing, whatever. The second aspect is the mental activity, the cognitive activity that goes on in the mind. Now, in this session, we are mostly going to talk about, it's the, the pre-writing stage, and the environment helps the child to build the cognitive aspect of writing. Okay. But the very first stage of writing is drawing and scribbling. Even before this idea to the child that, okay, I can also write, if I'm looking at something, if I'm looking at a written word, if I'm looking at a written sentence, what does that mean? The child doesn't know it. The child will not have this understanding, right? So drawing and scribbling is the very first stage of writing. And then it moves on to writing letters, writing invented spellings, words, all of those things. We'll get deeper into it in the next slides. Let's first just understand what these stages are about. Uh, so you start with the drawing activities or the scribbling activities, and then you move on to the later stages. Once these stages are kind of achieved, then we move on to the words and simple sentences. So until and unless the child has done a lot of drawing and scribbling and all these things, that is where the child understands, okay, what writing really means. The the foundation is laid there. Then the child starts to write letters and words, and then moves on to writing words and simple sentences, and then comes the last stage, which is the conventional writing. All of these stages, now again, these stages are not going to happen at the same age for every child. For every child, all these, maybe child A is at drawing and scribbling, but child B is at letter like forms, and that is fine. That is absolutely fine. Maybe some children will take a very long time in learning how to write the correct form of letters, others won't, and that is fine. Sometimes a child will be maybe in more than one stage, so they are able to write letters and spellings, but they're also able to write simple sentences, and we'll see how this happens. Okay. So do you see this on the screen? What do you think these are? Have you ever seen this? Have you ever seen your children do something like this on a plain paper? Please use the chat box to answer. Yes. Yes. Okay. So yes, of course. All of you are saying you have seen these things. Now, what do you do when the students do this? In the classroom, you give a plain paper, you give a pencil, and the child starts doing something random. What do you do at that time? Or in the drawing book? Yes, of course. So do you stop the child? Okay, let me give you two options. Do you stop the child? Do you hold the child's hand and then maybe start writing, making circles or squares or whatever? Or do you just let the child do it? Three options: stop the child, hold the child's hand, or let the child just do whatever the child is doing. Okay, guide them to do different shapes, let the child do it, hold child's hand, let the child do whatever, appreciate. Okay, give freedom to the child. Excellent. Um, Now we understand that the journey of writing begins long before the child can actually form letters, right? This is the very first stage of writing: drawing and scribbling. Just giving a plain paper to the child or a drawing book or whatever, and giving pencils, crayons, paints, any material that the child likes, and letting them do whatever they want to do. So they will first begin with drawing. They'll just draw anything. And when they do that, of course, their physical aspect of writing is developing because they are able to hold something and do something on the paper. Simultaneously, their cognitive aspect is also developing. So at this stage, when they draw, they are also understanding that, oh, I can express something. They don't draw randomly, right? They, through their drawings, they want to express their feelings. They want to express their thoughts and ideas. And they also then understand, okay, writing is something that will help me express. So they understand the purpose of writing through drawing. All their drawings are rich with meaning. And this is their first attempt to symbolic formation, representation. For them, these are symbols. Like for us, letters are symbols, words are symbols. For them, this is a symbol. After this, then they start scribbling. As you can see in the second image, now they start scribbling. They just put take a pencil, do random things on the paper. It is not really like a drawing, but this is their exposure to showing. This is their this is how they're demonstrating and showing that, I understand what writing is. That is why I'm making these random marks, because I can't write letters and words. So this is what I'm trying to do. And we should let the child do this. And then you may have also seen a lot of children do this, the green strokes. This is where the child is showing that this is their first attempt to communicate. They must, by now, they have seen books, they have seen that there are sentences written like this on the book, and that is what they are trying to imitate. So, again, showing their understanding of writing. So, this is like the first stage of writing. Now, what should we do at this stage? These are simple two strategies. First is let the child do. Let them do free drawing. Give them variety of things. Let them just explore and have fun. Don't stop. Don't tell them, ki, oh, what have you done? I don't understand this. Don't say yours is better than the other ones or not better. Just let them be. Just let them soak in this whole experience. And in fact, you participate with the child. You also have this fun. Tell the child that writing is all about having fun. Writing is like really this really amazing experience. You talk to the child, okay, what have you drawn? What does this mean? Therefore, reinforcing the idea that whatever you have done has a meaning to it. Right? When we write, there is a meaning to it. If I'm writing my name is Tanvi, I want to say that this is my name. There is a meaning to that sentence. So let that develop. Let the child really celebrate and appreciate writing as a whole process. Okay, now a lot of things can be done at that stage. Maybe the child doesn't want to write or draw with a pencil or a crayon or a paintbrush. You can give them sand, you can give them a floor, you can give them anything that they like, anything through which they are able to express their feelings, anything that will they are able to show their ideas. A plain paper, maybe on the floor, maybe on the blackboard, wherever. Just let this whole experience uh, make it grand for the child. Just make it very, very fun and engaging for the child. And the only two things to do is the only two strategies, most important strategies, is letting the child do it and also participating with the child. in the same process. Now, the second stage is letter-like forms. Once the child has, drawn and done all these scribbling, they are also developing. Their hand is developing. Physically, also they are becoming becoming stronger. So, and meanwhile, see, writing and reading and all the language things happen simultaneously. So, meanwhile, what also is happening is that the child is reading or the child is listening, and the child is seeing a lot of text either on the blackboard or on the screen or wherever they are in the market, on the boards of the above the shops. So they are also seeing all these letters, and you have also by now started introducing letters to the child. This is A, this is B. Now the child cannot write it exactly, so they do something like this. This is the second stage of scribbling, and this is where the child actually shows that, I understand what this is, and this is my way of telling you that, whatever letters I'm seeing, this is my way. I understand that those are something. Now, can you read these letters? Do you understand what these letters are? Is the first letters P or R or just 12? Yeah, yes, can you see? Yes, R. Exactly. So you can understand what these letters are, right? That these are mock letters. This R is not like a perfect R. This could be a C, this could be a half F, this could be an O, this could be a half G, this could be I or L, whatever. So through this, the child is showing that, I understand letters. Here is my interpretation of these letters. This is what the child wanted to write, but because the child doesn't understand how to form it, or maybe doesn't have the strength, so the child is doing whatever the child can. Now, at this stage, what is it that we should let the child do? We should just let the child play with writing. We should let stop the child. Oh, no, no, this is not how you form R. This is not how you form L. It's okay. At this stage also, we don't need to give any feedback to the child. We are not assessing the child, right? We are not telling the child कि आपने ये सही किया और ये नहीं है. This is not how you write. Just let them. But at this stage, make sure that you are providing pencils, even if with the cover, I don't know what you call it, but for the grasp, these eraser kind of things come, and using that, or thick crayons, whatever is available and whatever the child is comfortable with, give those things and let the child write on paper. Of course, you can continue letting the child do things on the blackboard or SAD. Those things should happen. But now here, the child should also start writing on the paper. Holding the pencil. Start holding and putting proper pressure. So it's very important for the child to understand that if I put too much pressure, the paper will tear apart. If I don't put too much pressure, it won't be visible. So the child is also gradually learning ki this is the amount of pressure that I have to put, and this is how I have to move my hands to form anything. That's your first strategy. Let the child play with writing. Let the child do whatever the child wants to do. The only thing is you need to provide a lot of different types of materials and resources. Second, very, very important. This should be this will lay the foundation for everything in language, not only writing, having a print rich environment. Now, what do you understand by print rich environment? We can use the chat if somebody wants to say. What is a print rich environment? Flashcards, okay. Using flashcards, using posters, okay. Very nice. Using bold letters, okay. Images, posters, using things, right? Printed items, of course, flashcards, charts, pictures. Yes, yes, spot on. Print rich environment is an environment in the classroom. We can, of course, do it in the school itself, but within the classroom, giving an environment to the child which is full of print, where things are labeled. You have put flashcards and labeled it. So, for example, you've put a flashcard of a car and you've then written CAR, car, below it. You have put a lot of posters where there is a lot of words and sentences written. It has to be print rich. Words, sentences, letters, everywhere. They could be letter cards, they could be word cards. At this stage, when the child sees these things all the time around him or her, the child also starts to learn about letters, starts to learn how to form it. Okay, you know, the the child observes a lot, and their observation skills are way better than our observation skills as adults. They observe very minute things. They won't be able to tell you, but they do. So they'll observe, okay, if I'm writing F like this, I have to put a like a slanting line in the center. So they they will always observe and try to imitate. Those are two very important ways or principles for child to learn things. Therefore, providing an environment through which the child can learn a lot, right? So having give all these things in the classroom at this stage. Have the classroom full of shapes and colors and labels. Put on a piece of paper, write table and put it on the table. On a piece of paper, write chair and put it on a chair. On a piece of paper, write a wardrobe, put it on the wardrobe. And this is something that you can also tell parents to do at home. So letting the child explore, letting the child, giving exposure to the child at this stage is really a very good strategy to let the child move from letter like forms stage to actually writing letters. Right now, within while the child is have started writing letters, so I am making this weird a. For me, it is a, but maybe it's not the right form. But if I'm going to see a all the time, then eventually I will also learn how to form it. And of course, in my language classes, I'm learning what a is, what is the sound, words with a, how do you say it, how does a how is a which words start with a, those things, or which words start with c d, whatever. So then the child also starts to write these letters. Now from these mock letters, they are able to write proper letters. You must have seen a lot of children writing letters very close to each other without giving any gap, right? That is one sub stage of writing letters. And they will mix capital letters and small letters, and that is fine. That is okay, because this is the stage where they are, understanding what letters are, and let them do it, let them play. If we keep uh, interrupting the child at these stages and keep telling them, no, you are wrong, no, this is not correct, then the child is not going to learn. Then the child will feel very disturbed. The child will not feel confident about himself. The child will feel that, oh, I can't do anything. So at these stages, we should just let the child be. If the child is not able to write as properly, at this stage you can hold the child's hand and help the child write, do tracing activities, do other things. We'll come on that. So you must have seen something like this, where the child is writing like all the letters together, like in a string. And then you must have also seen something like this, where the child has written some letters together, then given a gap and written some other letter. This is a way of the child to tell you that now I understand what words are. Some letters are put together, then there is a space, and then some letters are put together. That initial understanding is developing here. And this is the way of the child telling you, okay, this I understand. I've seen this in books. I've seen this when you write on the blackboard. But I can't write cat, so I'm writing this, whatever I can. Maybe this is cat for me, and I can tell you what this is. Now, there's one very important thing. At all these stages, from drawing till here, keep talking to the child. What have you drawn? What have you written? Once the child has done it, let the child tell you the meaning. Let the child tell you, this is what it means. This is what I was thinking. I just wanted to draw a house, and maybe the child has just drawn some random lines. Oh, this is beautiful. This is so nice. Whose house is this? Who lives in this house? Just talk about it. A child has a lot of meaning to what the child is doing. It is our responsibility to fetch that meaning out of the child. So after the child has written something, talk about it. Say, oh, this is so nice. Do you want to add something to it? Oh, what have you written? Even if the child has written this MLG, maybe the child says, oh, I've written cat. Oh, okay, that is very nice. How does a cat look? And then you can, build that conversation. And why have you written cat? Did something happen? So just building that conversation so that you also explain to the child, you don't write randomly. There is a meaning, there has to be a meaning to it. And the child understands that. So just letting the child know that I understand that, you have written something and I really appreciate it. And this is amazing. This is some really amazing work. And let's talk about it now. What have you written? Why have you written it? So do these things with the child at all of these stages. Now that the child has, now coming back to the stage, now that the child has shown you this understanding that I understand what words are, the child will then start to write words. Now it now it's not necessary that the child will write the correct spelling of the word. The child may write something like this, right? So if a child writes something like this, what do you do then? Please use the chat box and tell what do you do if a child is writing wrong spellings. Say for example, you have said write cat and the child writes city. Do you stop the child? Do you ask the child to, okay, let's have two, three options. Do you ask the child to rewrite it correctly? Okay, correct spelling. Let it be. Okay, correct word. Correct spelling. You ask the child to write the correct spelling. You'll just let it be whatever the child has written. Or you ask the child to, give this words over and over again to the child. Ask the child to maybe copy. Okay, you will say something is missing. Let's find out. Okay, make them learn the spelling. Okay, alphabetical knowledge. Okay, um, fine. Okay, correct her. Very well said. Okay, teach them how to write correct spelling. Okay, copy my letters. Fine. Phonics. Okay. Okay, phonics is a program, and not maybe every school uses it. So we'll not get into phonics completely in this presentation, but phonics is definitely a good program to teach sounds and letter combination to students. Give spelling, give them the correct pronunciation. Okay. We'll show the picture with correct word. Fine. These are some really nice strategies. However, I would like to, I would like you to take a pause here and try and read these words, what the child has written. Can you read the first word? White, right? Okay. Can you read the second word? Just, okay, wait, white, right, phone. Yes. The third word? Luck, look, like. Okay, luck. Perfect. And the fourth word? Cream, crime, climb. Perfect. Now, do you see there is a resemblance in what the child has written in the sound? You say, for example, you have said white, right? And the child has written white, WITE, and has missed H. But there is a resemblance here. Child has written what the child has heard. Yes? Do you agree with me here? Okay. Yes. So, because till now the child is listening to these sounds, maybe the child is not exposed to these words a lot. And even if the child is, maybe the child doesn't remember, ki WH is were, TH is th. Okay, we write phone with PH. What the child is just doing is listening to the sound and based on the sound, writing the word. And this is what is called as invented spelling, because the child is inventing his or her own spellings here. The child is not able to follow the conventional spelling rule. Correct? At this stage, when it is very initial in the child's life, let's not ask the child to write it correctly. You may, but not in the way, okay, what you have written is wrong. This is incorrect. Not like that. You may give feedback. You may then, somebody also wrote it on the chat, then show a flashcard with the correct word and ask the child, okay, what is this? This is white. Is this the same as what you have written? Did you want to write, were you thinking of writing this? Okay, let's now copy it. So you're not telling the child that you are wrong. You're just telling the child that, what you have written is also correct, but this is how we write it. Now, the child will obviously, English, in some cases, the rules are really, it may look strange, but the child may be thinking, but what's wrong with WITE, white? What's wrong with that? Why do I have to put an H? Now, that is where, when your sessions are happening, you can explain these rules to the child if there are any rules, or you may expose these difficult words to the child. But you should not always correct the child when they are writing these invented spelling. Otherwise, the entire copy will be read. And then the child will feel underconfident. Oh, I can't even write a word correctly. It is okay if the child is using invented spelling. This is just a stage. If it prolongs, if it is happening for months, then then you have to definitely. But if it is just in the initial stage, it is okay. Give them the right answers while you are writing on the blackboard, while you're giving a flashcard in the book. You have a print rich environment. You can show, okay, this is the color white. It's spelled as white or WHITE, whatever strategy you use in your school. So let the child see what I have written and give self feedback to himself or herself. I have written this, but this is the correct thing, and gradually the child will learn these things. In the initial stage, don't correct the child by putting a cross. Correct, but in different ways. Don't put a cross and then write, okay, this is WHITE, write it 5 times. Let's not get into that. That's not going to help the child learn the spelling. The child will learn it. The more the exposure, the better the input, the better the output. Always remember this. So give as much input as you can. If in like 2-3 months time also the child is not able to move from invented spelling to proper spellings for most of the words, then start at telling the child, okay, this is wrong, right? Okay, this is how you write it. So now you read it, remember it. This strategy is called close your eyes, you read it, sorry, you read it, and then you hide the word, you remember the word now, and then you write it. So read, hide, write. That way the child is going to remember the spelling of the word and write it then and there, so won't forget it. Okay? Yeah, and as you all correctly identified, these are the words: white, phone, look, green, as per my interpretation. And there could be more interpretations, of course. Now, what are the strategies that we can use during this stage? As I said, giving lot of exposure to letters and words, print rich environment, making them write letters and words over and over again, either on the paper or on the sand, or using clay, or just painting, making them write in the air to understand the formation of the letter so that they are able to, or making them write on the hand. You can write cat on the hand of the child. This is a very nice activity because it is also in a way tangible for the child. So do give lot of exposure to children. Then have activities where students copy letters and words from the environment. And now copying is not, this is not copying. This is not going to help the child learn with understanding or develop this skill. Have activity, let the child see something in the environment and say, okay, write white, write the word maybe square, and you have this chart of shapes, and then tell the child, okay, the word is written in the on that wall or on that corner or on that chart, find it and write it. That kind of copying, not just blindly looking at the blackboard and then copying the word. And even if that is happening, even if you want to write those words in the on the blackboard, you let the child read the word. What is it? What have I written? Read it. So that the child is engaged. It's an immersive experience for the child. The child is engaged in the learning. You are not providing everything. There should not be any rote learning. Learn, okay, CAR car, CAR car, CAR car. That's not going to help the child. Okay, so let the child play with it. Tell the child, okay, it's look at on that chart and write any 5 words from there, like that. So that these are simple strategies that will help you m- help you move the child from invented spelling stage to the actual words and sentences stage. Next strategy that you can use is teaching children relationship between sounds and letters. Phonics has a very major role to play in this, but this is not only phonics. This is a part of phonics, not the entire strategy. If you are not doing phonics in your school, you can help the child understand when I say what is the letter that comes to your mind? What do you form? So that every letter has a sound and there is an association to it. Have build that understanding. Then have students label drawings and things or write names. The child maybe has drawn a house. Ask the child to write it. House. Invented spelling, it is okay. But let the child write it. He or she will write incorrect spelling of house 3 times, but maybe the fourth time, fifth time, the child will learn that this is the correct spelling. And you use these words then in your teaching and letting the child know that house is this, without explicitly telling. You don't write house like this, you write a house like this. Okay, whatever you have written, and for example, you have given this work to the children, draw whatever you like and then label it. And then what you can do is write all those words on the blackboard and let the child see and see, okay, what have I written and what's there written. Do let them have uh, give them self feedback. Now your last stage is words in simple sentences. This is where the child starts to write proper words. They may start with just writing words, or they may also start with writing sentences. A cat, this is a cat. Mm, hen, that is a hen, something like that, and that is fine. Both the stages, now the child has started to learn, have understand the whole writing process, that there are something called as words, there are something called as sentences, this is how words are formed, this is how I listen to the sound and then produce it on the paper. All of those things have happened. Have you seen something like this? Have you seen your child, any of your children write something like this? You can use the chat box to respond. They do, right? Jyoti ma'am is saying they do. Yes. Okay. Yes, you must have seen this. This is how they write sentences. Maybe the child is not doing this. Maybe the child is doing this. It is okay. But invented spelling doesn't end at that stage. It moves on to the next stage. Even when the child is writing sentences, they will invent their own spellings. They will maybe just write the first letter and the last letter. Like you can see in this word dog. My dog is black. Okay, this is what the child intended to write. Again, have discuss these things with the child. What have you written? What is this? My dog is black. He is fuzzy. I love him. His name is Otis. It will take some time for the child to move from this to this stage. Give that time to the child. And not every child will take the same amount of time. Somebody will do it in a month's time, somebody will take 6 months. That is fine. In the early years, children learn at their own pace. And let them. We should not push the child until we feel that there is there is a significant delay. Only then is when we should engage and intervene. This is conventional writing. where the child has now started writing proper sentences, the spellings are correct. This is from a 6-year-old child, and you can see that even now some of the rules, the grammatical or punctuation rules, are still developing. So that's okay. You can correct it. You can ask the child, okay, you remember the first letter of a sentence starts with a capital letter, right? Okay, now just two things. These are some very simple. I'll just take 2 more minutes to wind up. These are some very simple strategies. You can have word walls. On a wall, write a lot of words where which the child can refer to. Give guided writing. So you give this example. If you want the child to write 3 sentences on a picture, you write 1 sentence, give that example, and then ask the child to do it, so that it helps them understand what is expected from them. Have them make meaning on based on what they have written, and at these stages teach the rules of writing. You should write with capital, start with capital letter, your spelling, your this, that, all those things. You should now is the time to teach all these rules, and now is the time to give this feedback to the children without reprimanding the children, without letting them feel, oh, I don't know anything, without letting them feel low. Encourage the child to do it correctly with giving positive feedback. Okay. Okay, I'll just skip that. So the two things that you should always do when you're doing writing is, one, give a lot of practice. Every day, every single day, the child should write, and celebrate this with the child. Enjoy it with the child. Even if the child is writing incorrect, even if the child doesn't want to write, give them that space. Okay, let us take 5 minutes and then maybe you can write. But give lot of opportunities to the children to practice writing every day, so that physically also they develop, and cognitively they also learn writing. And this is going to help big time in other aspects like literacy, like reading, listening, and understanding other subjects. So okay, I'm sorry, I think something went wrong. So that was the presentation, and I'm open for questions now. I could see there were a few
Okay.
questions in the chat
So
box.
we will now open the floor for Q&A round. Please type your questions related to the topic in the chat box, and Ms. Parwal will be happy to address them.
Yes.
All right. So
Or just too much information, I guess.
we'll just give them a
Thank you,
few.
Sonia ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you, Hina ma'am. I'm glad that I could be of help.
great. So many messages of thank yous and appreciation.
Okay, if the child is writing the first letter to form letter, okay, I think I missed the question. If the child is,
Yeah. So if the child is writing the first letter correctly and then scribbling the other letters of the word,
Mhm.
so ma'am,
What should we do? That is
yeah,
okay. That is okay. See, you will also see child writing DSP, PSD. Those things will happen. So don't force the child to do everything correctly all the time. Sometimes let the just let the child be. Gradually, the child will learn. So it is fine if you have said car, the child has written C correctly and then A and R incorrectly. That is okay. But if you see that the child is always writing P reverse, give practice to the child. Show that letter or that word a lot of times to the child, so that that cognitively the child is able to remember it.
there's another question, ma'am. Miss Audrey has written, I am a teacher of UKG, so how to
Okay.
make kids write in the 4 lines correctly?
Yes, that is a very good question. Children generally do not like to make their writing confined. So if the child is not able to do that, give them simple boxes first. Don't give them lines. Giving a blank canvas is very important initially in the writing stage. So give them simple boxes that will help them understand that, okay, I have to only write between these 2 lines and or these 2 lines. I can't go beyond it, and then gradually move to writing between the lines.
Right. Miss Ujjwala has written, if fifth standard child is doing mistakes in spellings, how to handle it?
In spellings?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that will happen a lot during the early years. If the child is writing, if the spelling is always incorrect, the child is not able to understand it, you may definitely intervene. You may provide the correct spelling a lot of times. Let the child write it 5 times, the strategy that I said. Read the word, hide it, and then write it again 5 times. So giving more practice to the child to write that word. And if that is happening for every spelling, see, sometimes, what also happens is that the milestones are a little delayed during this stage. We also have to identify that. If that's the case, then there will be a different route. But if it is just because the child hasn't gotten a lot of exposure, again, your input versus your output. If you think that you're giving a lot of input, your output is not matching that, then there is an issue. Otherwise, if there is, then you have to let the child do it many, many times. Practice is the key here.
Right. And there's another question.
Mhm.
Sometimes the child gets confused in writing spellings where E and I comes in the middle of the spelling. What
Yes.
phonic sounds should we make them to learn?
Okay, so for English, there are rules to do that,
Hmm.
because we are talking about writing, and it could be for any other language also, right? So identify those rules for yourself. Like, what are those things that the child is, most of the times, like E and I or double letters. If these are the things that the child is not able to do, uh, make like a rules chart, put it in the classroom, and go back to it again and again. When C comes, after C, do we write IE? After C, do we write EI? Practice that again and again. So eventually the child will remember it and will be able to write the spelling correctly. Give a lot of reading to the child. Reading is a very important aspect to develop writing. The more they will read, the more they'll be exposed to words, exposed to spelling, sentence structure, punctuation, grammar, the better their writing will become.
Right. We'll take one last question. How to give writing practice for autism child?
Okay, that will be out of scope right now, because to an autistic child, it is a completely different ball game altogether. Those are therapies then. And I'm not sure if I'm the right person to respond, and it will take a lot of time. So maybe we can have some other question.
Think, ma'am, there was all the questions. We are not getting any more questions. So, okay. Uh, Thank you so much, Ms. Tanvi, ma'am, for such an insightful and informative session. We truly appreciate your expertise and the valuable strategies you have shared with us today. Uh, a big thank you to all the participants for the active engagement and thoughtful questions. Your dedication to improving early childhood education is commendable, and we hope you found this session as enlightening as we did. Thank you so much, ma'am. This concludes today's second session of the CPD initiative. We have another exciting, informative session lined up next, which is also by Ms. Tanvi. So make sure to join us for that. Also, don't forget to participate in the quiz at the end of the next session, which will begin very shortly. So stay tuned for that. And also participate in the quiz and stand a chance to win Amazon vouchers worth rupees 20,000. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Keep up the great work, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Until then, continue to inspire and nurture our young learners. Thank you, Ms. Tanvi. Thank you so much.
Thank you
See you
so
in the
much,
next
Lily.
session.
Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.